Heavy rains returned to southern Brazil, flooding even higher ground in Porto Alegre. All right, so here we see in Porto Alegre, Brazil. That's yesterday is from when the story was. All right, heavy rains once again pounded parts of Brazil's southernmost state on Thursday, ruining days-long cleanup efforts and flooding areas which had previously been untouched in Rio Grande do Sul's capital city of Porto Alegre. Right, so there had already been some flooding, then even more flooding after they did the cleanup. So God just showed them, look, you did all that for nothing. All right, I'll send more floods. You clean up again, I'm gonna send more floods. Right? Record flooding over the past month has killed 163 people and displaced around 600,000 more. Over 500,000 people have been, displaced, meaning lost, like sent to another area by this flooding. Another 64 people are still missing. All right. So they found around 500,000 of them. There's still about 64 that they ain't found. Rains had lightened up to a drizzle over the past few days, with stores beginning to open and residents working to rebuild, right? So there was some terrible flooding. And then stores started cleaning up and opening back up again. Oh, everything's good, right? Nope, here comes the flood again. All right. But the skies opened once more on Thursday morning. All right, it's very, very similar to, as I said, during the days of Noah, the windows of heaven opened, right? But the skies opened once more on Thursday morning, dumping heavy rains and flooding areas of Porto Alegre all over again. One daycare in the neighborhood of Menino Deus, which had reopened on Wednesday after a week-long cleanup, was forced to evacuate as the rains rushed in. All right. It all happened very quickly. The flooding happened much faster than last time. The director of the child care center, who did not give her name, said, all right, so she said, look, it's worse now. It was bad before, but it was worse this time. All right. In a span of 12 hours, and obviously you can see a picture here. In a span of 12 hours, parts of Porto Alegre received more rains than they typically do in a whole month, according to data from the National Meteorological Institute. Y'all gotta forgive me with them big words, all right? The flooding on Thursday also hit areas of Porto Alegre, such as in the south, which had previously gone unscathed, right? So there were some places, it was all good through the last floods. Guess what? This time, boom, got them. Not leaving a stone unturned, all right? Jimena Samuel had to call for her elderly parents to be rescued in the neighborhood of Cavalada, where streets were flooded and cars unable to get through. All right, so everybody in the whole region of this southern Brazil area is affected by these floods. All right, there are a lot of elderly people here who can't get out by themselves, right? So they have to be saved, right? They have to be protected. Earlier this week, the city of Porto Alegre had asked residents to leave their trash out on the sidewalk to be thrown away. However, the fresh rains carried the trash out onto the street, clogging drains and worsening the flooding. Porto Alegre Mayor Sebastião Melo told reporters the city was not surprised by the downpour, but that it was excessively heavy. Right? Residents, however, complained about the lack of warning. Right? So the mayor said, look, we thought it was going to be like this. It's a little worse than we thought, but we knew it was going to be something like this. And the people are now saying, like, why didn't you tell us, right? So I go through all that to point this out right here. Obviously, these are signs of the times, all right? These are signs of the times, all right? So first scripture I want to get on this is Psalm 69. Psalm 69. All right, Psalm 69, I'm going to start with verse 1. This is a Psalm of David. Save me, O God, for the waters are come in unto my soul. I sink in deep mire be the mud, where there is no standing. I am come into deep waters where the floods overflow me. Now, obviously, you could say, well, this is a metaphor, right? And it sure is. It definitely is a metaphor. David is speaking in a metaphorical term. But also, David was a prophet. All right? He's seeing in the spirit what is happening to the Israelites. And yes, those Brazilians are Israelites. They're from the tribe of Asher. All right? These are Israelites, and David is seeing this in the spirit. He's seeing what happened to his people. The same way he saw in the spirit what happened with Christ. The same way he saw in the spirit what happened to the temple that wasn't even built yet. All right? He saw in the spirit all these things. The Lord showed him all these things. And God showed him about floods as well. I am weary of my crying. My throat is dried. My eyes fail while I wait for my God. You see that right there? So, again, you can say this is a metaphor. But the reason why David is using this metaphor is because this actually happens to some. Right? And it's happening to the Brazilians right now. All right? So we're going to go from here to Wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon is in the Apocrypha. All right? We teach, we believe the 80 books here, not just the 66. All right? The 80 books that's in the KJV. Wisdom of Solomon 5, starting with verse 15, and we're going to jump down. All right? Wisdom of Solomon 5, starting with verse 15. But the righteous live forevermore. Their reward also is with the Lord, and the care of them is with the Most High. You see that right there? So the righteous will live forever, and the Most High is watching over them, right? So, jumping down to verse 20. His severe wrath, meaning the Lord's wrath, shall he sharpen for a sword. It will be the righteous weapon. The wrath of the Lord will be the righteous's weapon. And the world shall fight with him against the unwise. You see that right there? So here we see that the world itself, the earth itself, will fight against the unwise. All right? Just like I was just talking about with somebody. All right? The reason why we're in the condition that we are in today, the reason why the earth is in the condition that it is in today is because of the curses of Deuteronomy 28 are in the world. All right? It's because the Israelites never kept God's commandments. That includes those Brazilians. All right? There was a festival in Brazil. I think it was either this year or last year, where they were openly praising Satan. It may have been like just a section of Carnival, but I think it was his own thing too. I'm going to have to point that out. I don't have that pulled up, but I'm going to have to bring that out at some point. All right? So it says, the world shall fight with him against the unwise. So this is what's going to happen to the unwise. Then shall the right aiming thunderbolts go abroad. Right? So thunderbolts going to be all over the world. Is that not what we see? Increased thunderstorms. That's what happened in Brazil. And from the clouds, as from a well-drawn bow, shall they fly to the mark. You see that right there? So lightning bolt, right? Thunderstorm, just taking out everything. Lightning, just taking out stuff, right? And hailstones full of wrath shall be cast as out of a stone bow. And the water of the sea shall rage against them, rage against the unwise, and the floods shall cruelly drown them. You see that right there? That's what you see happening. The floods are cruelly drowning them. That's what's happening, all right? This was prophecy at one point, now it's coming to pass. Now it's history. All right, now it has came to pass. The flooding is happening. All right, and it's only going to get worse before it gets better. All right. I'm not just talking about the flood specifically, I'm talking about the world. And this is why. In Revelation 11. Because, the secular world will tell you this is because of global warming or climate change, right? And yeah, the climate has changed. All right? This is Revelation 11 and 18. Excuse me, Revelation 11 and 18. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name. So they that fear thy name, small and great. So the righteous going to get a reward come judgment day. And shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. You see that right there? So what happened is, because the wicked world likes to pollute the world, now God is destroying them which destroy the earth. That's what's happening. That is climate change. The climate has changed because you have pissed God off. That's climate change. That's global warming. It's going to get a lot warmer too come Judgment Day. All right? When the nukes come. All right? But specifically with Brazil. Let me pull up another one. Amos 3. Because yes, these are Israelites. These are Israelites in Brazil. So they get judgment before the entirety of the U.S. gets judgment. All right? Because Brazil likes to think of themselves as the United States of South America. That's pretty much how they're positioned. All right? As the United States of South America, right? So the same way that the USA is up here, Brazil try to do the same thing down there. But as Israelites, as the Brazilians are Israelites, we can't do the same thing that the rest of the world do. All right? We have to be different. God looks at us in a different way than he looks at the rest of the world. That's why the curses are on us and not on everybody. All right? This is Amos 3, starting with verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, so this is all 12 tribes. All right? You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. You see that right there? So God said, look, I'm only dealing with the Israelites. That's why the Israelites get worse than everybody when it comes to judgment from God. They get it quicker than everybody when it comes to the judgment from God. All right? These other nations, they can prosper in wickedness. The Israelites cannot. You can't prosper in wickedness. God won't let you. There may be a few individuals who are rich through their wickedness, through their wicked deceit. That's not going to last long. Certainly not going to last forever. That's not going to last long. All right? Take somebody like Bill Cosby, for example. He was really of a high stature in the world. Everybody viewed him as this not only comedic genius, but like a great philanthropist, right? They looked at him as a morally upstanding man. But then look what happened to him. All his sins come back to haunt him. Now, whether you say he raped all those women or he, just, fornicated with all of them, regardless, that's still sin. God still took him down by the hand of this wicked kingdom that we're living in right now, Babylon. So all this wicked, P. Diddy right now being exposed for his wickedness. He can't prosper. He can't prosper in wickedness. He did for a short period of time, but not for long. Not for long. And you say, well, a couple decades long. No, it's a drop. It's not even a drop in a bucket when it comes to eternity. All right. That's the way the Israelites are supposed to prosper in righteousness, is throughout eternity. The wickedness is not going to last that long. All right. The wickedness is going to last, a lifetime, if that. Not even that much. Not even that long. It's usually the wicked get cast down in their own lifetime when it comes to the wicked Israelites. All right. So from there, let's get to the next story. That's all I got on the flooding. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the flooding. This is the main story for the night. This helicopter crash. This happened like last Monday. Or maybe like last weekend, something like that. This was a while ago this happened. In the past week. Alright. So, this is from AP, the Associated Press. It says, Iran entered, and I suppose this entered is I'm assuming this entered means entered him into the ground or entered him into the grave. President Ibrahim Raisi at the nation's holiest Shiite shrine Thursday, days after he was killed in a helicopter crash that added to the woes of a country already beset by international sanctions, internal unrest, and tensions abroad. So Iran is going through it right now. All right. So why is Iran going through it? We'll get into that later. All right. Unrest and tensions abroad. I'll just give you a spoiler. It's not because it's run by Israelites. All right, it's not. There's a reason why Iran's going through it right now, though. All right, Raisi, who died alongside the country's foreign minister and 6 others, was lowered by mourners into a tomb at the Imam Reza shrine in Mashhad, where Shiite Islam's 8th Imam is buried, and millions of pilgrims visit each year. And see, they With them Muslims, man. The Muslims, they go around and they cast down like ancient idols and things like that, like Babylonian idols and what else, like Persian idols. But they themselves, they set up idols. They set up that Kaaba stone to worship in Mecca, and they set up this holy site where they could worship in Iran. All right, they're worshiping idols as well. Hundreds of thousands of people dressed in black crowded around the shrine under its iconic golden dome. And the scriptures talk about idols of silver and gold, man. That's exactly the same. All right, same thing Catholics doing. It's all idolatry. All these religions is idolatry, man. Wailing and beating their chests in sorrow in a sign of mourning common in Shiite ceremonies. A hadith, or saying, attributed to the Prophet Muhammad. So they said it's attributed. It definitely didn't come from Muhammad, but they say it did. All right, states that anyone with sorrow or sin will be relieved by visiting there. So like, even if this is from Muhammad is not a prophet in the scriptures. He comes 600 years after Christ. All right. But Thursday's mass processional offered little salve for Iran and its many challenges. You see that right there? So even if this did come from Muhammad, it's a false prophecy because everybody was still mourning. They weren't relieved when they got there. All right. The days of services for Raisi have not drawn the same crowds in this nation of over 80 million people as the 2020 gatherings for Revolutionary Guard General Qasem Soleimani, who was slain by a U.S. drone strike in Baghdad, right? So they said, look, it's a lot of people, but it's not as much as that drone strike was, right? As Qasem Soleimani was. In Tehran alone, an estimated 1 million people turned out in the streets for Soleimani. Something onlookers said they didn't see at the men's commemorations Wednesday, right? So the people weren't rallying to the streets the way that they were under Soleimani's death. Excuse me. All right. Yet the ceremonies have repeatedly invoked the general and included his image, which is likely to spark an association between the men. You see what I'm saying? So they look at General Soleimani as a martyr. All right. And now they're looking at Raisi as a martyr the same way. All right. It's a potential sign of the public's feelings about Raisi's presidency, which included a harsh government crackdown on dissent during the protest over the 2022 death of Mahsa Amini, who was detained for allegedly not wearing her mandatory headscarf to authorities' liking, right? So they don't deal with women that get out of order over there. They kill them. And the people, well, it may have been influenced by some other means, went out to the streets to protest that. They've had this unrest going. That's the internal conflict he was talking about. They've had sanctions put on them by the U.S. for many years now because they don't like U.S. policies. They have been, in a brief tit for tat with the state of Israel earlier. I believe it was like last month. All right. So there's a lot going on in Iran right now. That crackdown, as well as Iran's struggling economy, have gone unmentioned in the hours of coverage provided by state television and newspapers. All right. So obviously Iran's going to push its propaganda to its people, just like every country's television just pushes its own propaganda to its people. America is no different. All right. Never discussed was Raisi's involvement in the mass execution of an estimated 5,000 dissidents at the end of the Iran-Iraq war. Right. So this Iran-Iraq war is talking about in the 80s. All right. And there's a reason why I'm going to come back to that later when we get to the scriptures. All right. Little information has emerged about the cause of the crash of the aging Bell helicopter that went down in a foggy mountainous region. You see that right there? So they had to put in here, we don't know the cause, but it was an aging Bell helicopter and it was in a foggy mountainous region. You see what I'm saying? So they have to put that to try to persuade the reader into thinking, there was no foul play involved here. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I guess we'll see as evidence comes forth. But it's odd, or maybe just a coincidence that they just had this tit for tat with Israel, with the state of Israel, and now their president's dead. Maybe it's just a coincidence. All right. Obviously, I'm being facetious. Okay. The country's security forces were expected to investigate in the coming days, right? So the investigation is not even really started yet. They're in mourning, right? Once the investigation starts, we'll see how that turns out. Prosecutors have warned against any public signs of celebration around Raisi's death, and heavy security presence has been seen in Tehran since the crash. All right. Raisi 63 had been discussed as a possible successor to Iran's supreme leader, the 85-year-old Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, or Khamenei. The next presidential election is set for June the 28th. For now, there is no clear favorite for the position among Iran's political elite, particularly no one who is a Shiite cleric like Raisi, right? So this guy was more of a religious leader than a political leader, all right? They said, look, there's nobody else who really filled that role of a religious leader at the time, or at this time, I should say. Acting President Mohammed Mokber is, a relatively unknown first vice president until Sunday's crash, has stepped into his role and even attended a meeting between Khamenei and Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh on Wednesday, right? So this is important. Yeah, I'm going to finish this out. It's just a few more paragraphs. This is important as far as Iran's instability, all right? The reason why I'm going into this is to show all these different things happening to Iran and also Iran's instability at this present time, all right? And like I said, I'm going to finish this out. Mashhad served as a longtime base for Raisi. In 2016, Khamenei appointed Raisi to run the Imam Reza Charity Foundation, which manages a vast conglomerate of businesses and endowments in Iran, as well as oversees the shrine, right? So again, a religious leader among the people. It is one of the many bonyads, or charitable foundations, fueled by donations or assets seized after Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution, right? That is what kicked the American and British puppets out of the government in Iran, all right? These foundations offer no public accounting of their spending and answer only to Iran's supreme leader. The Imam Reza charity, known as Astan-e-Quds-e-Razavi in Farsi, is believed to be one of the biggest in the country. Analysts estimate its worth at tens of billions of dollars, as it owns almost half of the land in Mashhad, Iran's second largest city, about 750 kilometers east of Iran's capital, Tehran. So 470 miles east of Iran's capital, Tehran. You have, what was the name of that city? Did they even say? Half the land of Mashhad. Oh, Mashhad is the name of the city. All right. So yeah, here you see there could also be some. Obviously, there is some money involved in this. It could have been one of Iran's private business owners who took out the president here. Right, more than likely working with the West. So I'm not gonna. Obviously, it's just speculation at this point. We haven't seen the investigation, but I could almost guarantee that the West had some involvement in this. All right, probably not the U.S. specifically, but maybe. All right. More than likely, the state of Israel had something to do with this. That's what I'm saying. I haven't seen any evidence of that, but that's just what it seems like. That's what it feels like. All right. Raisi is the first top politician in the country to be buried at the shrine, which represents a major honor for the cleric. His father-in-law serves as the city's Friday prayer leader. All right. So, Raisi was buried at this Islamic holy site because, again, he was a religious leader among the people, not really a political leader, so to speak. He was the president, but he was more of a religious leader. The deaths of Raisi and Foreign Minister Hussein Amir Abdul Ahayan, yeah, I butchered that, I know, come as Iran continues to back militia groups in the wider Mid-East to pressure its enemies, namely Israel and the United States. Mourners have chanted against both nations in the ceremonies. All right, so you see the people are all gathered together against the Western powers because the people themselves believe, the West had something to do with this, whether it was the state of Israel or the United States. State media circulated photos Thursday showing a meeting between Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard chief and the head of its expeditionary Quds force and representatives from Hamas, Lebanon's Hezbollah, and Yemen's Houthi rebels. And if you've been following along for the past few weeks, you would know that Iran has been funding Hezbollah, the Houthi, and even Hamas for a long time. All right? And these are the main people who have been, Hamas obviously is the only ones really fighting against the state of Israel for Gaza. Hezbollah is attacking them from the north. They're from Lebanon, right? And the Houthis have been attempting to stop shipments coming into the state of Israel from the Red Sea, because the Houthis are in Yemen. All right. On Thursday morning, thousands of people dressed in black gathered along a main boulevard in the city of Berjand, where Raisi once served as its member on the Assembly of Experts in Iran's South Khorasan province along the Afghan border. There and in Mashhad, mourners on the streets reached out to a truck carrying his casket, with some tossing scarves and other items against it for a blessing. Meanwhile, former foreign ministers Mohammad Javad Zarif and Ali Akbar Salehi and other dignitaries paid respects to Amir Abdul Ahian. I can't say that dude's name. It is what it is. At Iran's foreign ministry, where his casket was put on display. His body later was interred in Shar-e-Ray, just outside of Tehran, at the Abdul Azim Shrine, another final resting place for those famed in Persian history. Give Soleimani our greetings. A religious singer said as Amir Abdul Lahian's body was put into its final resting place, referring to the slain general. Right. So with the whole Amir Abdul Lahian guy, he was killed by the state of Israel on Syrian soil, but it was an Iranian embassy in Damascus where he was killed. All right. So just to keep you up to date on all the instability that's going on in Iran, why does it matter? Why does it matter, right? Because it's prophecy. In 2nd Ezra 15, all right? 2nd Ezra 15, and we see this unfolding, all right? 2nd Ezra 15, I'm going to start with verse 28, all right? Behold, a horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east. So that's why we're talking about the east. We're over here in the west. We're in the western hemisphere right now, but we're talking about what's happening in the east, what they call the Middle East. All right? Where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Right? So we saw this fulfilled in a big way in 2001, right? 9/11, where you had Islamic terrorism first. Really, that wasn't when it first happened, but that was the biggest incident where everybody began to fear and tremble at the idea of Islamic terrorism, right? And that has been happening on up to today. Islamic terrorism all around the world. As it said, carried as the wind upon the earth, everywhere, right? Also the Karmanians. The Karmanians is another word for Iranians. All right, raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Now, I don't believe this was fulfilled in any time recently or in the Iran-Iraq War of the 80s, because again, it said first that the dragons of Arabia would come, right? So it has to be post, at least as far as I understand, it has to be post 2001. It has to be post, has to be post this Islamic terrorism, all right, that has been happening not only 2001, but since then, right? So in the 2000s. And even if you believe that part has been fulfilled in verse 30. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, meaning the dragons of Arabia, right? The Arabians, remembering their nature, right? What it said in Genesis 16, that they are wild men, all right? If they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. You see right there? So it says in the prophecy that at some point the Arab nations will align themselves together. They won't be fighting each other no more, right? Now, whether they come together under ISIS or ISIL or Al-Qaeda or any of these other militant groups, I can't say. But some sort of Arab union is going to be established, all right? Whether that be a formal union like the European Union, or whether that be, just an agreement of alliances, regardless, that has to happen. That has not happened yet. The Arab nations are still fighting each other, all right? There's still tensions between them. There's still unrest, All right, that's not, we haven't seen that yet. All right. It says, then these shall be troubled and keep silence through their power and shall flee. Right. So you're going to see the Arabians get the upper hand on the Carmanians, and then what's going to pop off? And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them. And in their host shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. Behold, and this is the important part right here. Behold, clouds from the east and from the north and to the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. So this ain't talking about, storm clouds, or what was reading about what's happening in Brazil, right? This ain't talking about, rain clouds. That's not what this is talking about. All right. This is talking about the trail of smoke that a missile leaves. All right. When it says it's very horrible to look upon, you ain't seen no missiles like this. This is nukes. All right. This is nukes popping off. As it says right here in verse 35, and they shall smite one another. They shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth. So they're going to knock down a whole bunch of satellites as they're shooting all these, missiles. They're going to knock down some satellites. We haven't seen that yet. All right. These are things that must come to pass, though. So that's why there's unrest in Iran. That's why there's so much going on in Iran, so that they will be volatile and fulfill these prophecies. All right. That's why all this is happening in Iran. The Lord has a plan. The Lord He's bringing it all together. All right. We are in these last days. We are on the brink of World War III. He's bringing it all together. All right. It says, they shall smite one another. They shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, right? Their own satellite. They're going to knock out their own satellite. And blood shall be from the sword unto the belly. And we haven't quite seen that yet. There's been a lot of bloodshed in the Middle East, but we haven't quite seen that much. All right. It's all filling up, right? All this is coming to pass. All right. So from there, let's get Revelation, because I've been through this before, but and I will even point out on a map. And again, I point this out very often. When it says portion of the land of the Assyrians, map of Assyria right here. It said the Carmanians shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. It doesn't specify whether it's the Assyrian Empire of 824 BC, which would include Iraq, parts of Turkey, and Syria, or whether it's talking about the Assyrian Empire of 671 BC, right, which extended from Iran to Turkey to Egypt, right? It doesn't specify. But just solely based on my assumption, I'll pull up the modern Middle East map, just based on my assumption, believe it's going into either Iraq or Syria, all right, or both, right? Only the Lord truly knows. But I've talked about this before. When Israel over here, and obviously Iran is right here, when they had their stuff going on in the past month, I talked about how, look, what's right here in the middle between Israel and Iran. For stuff to pop off between Israel and Iran, it's probably going to pop off right here in Iraq and Syria as well. All right, a portion of the land of the Assyrians. All right. So, let me get this here in Revelation 16. All right, now I read this often because this is what we see happening. And before I even get to Revelation 16, I want to get to Joel 3. And again, I read this often, but this is what the last days are all about. All right, here in Joel 3, God clearly describes the last days. Joel 3, starting verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Jerusalem, meaning bring back the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel. All right? And when God pleads, God don't plead like man pleads. All right? God ain't coming down to say, oh, please deliver my people Israel. Please stop being mean. Please stop being mean to my people Israel. That's not what he's talking about. All right? When he said, I will plead with them there, this is what he's saying, Isaiah 66. This is what he's saying right here. Isaiah 66 and verse 16. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh. So God's going to plead with them there with fire and death, with fire and weaponry. All right. What has fire weaponry? Nuclear weapons. Missiles have fire weaponry. ICBMs. All right. That has fire weaponry. For by fire, by the sword, his sword, will the Lord plead with all flesh. And the slain of the Lord shall be many. Just like Christ said, many shall be called, few shall be chosen. Many's going to be slain. Only a few going to be chosen. All right. As he said in Joel, let's go back to Joel. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. We're going to get the valley of Jehoshaphat here in a minute. And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. You see that right there? So parting the land, God lets you know right here, the people that parted the land are the heathen, are the other nations, are not the children of Israel. All right? That state of Israel that was established, that's not the Israelites. All right? Them Arabs who are ruling in Jordan and the surrounding Arab nations, that's not Israelites. That's Ishmaelites. All right? And they have cast lots for my people, had auctions, sold them, and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they may drink. So this is specifically talking about Judah. It goes for the rest of the tribes as well. But remember, he said here, the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. Right? So he's about to describe what happened to Judah and Jerusalem. Have given a boy for a harlot. Right? They made the men breeders. They called them mandingos, made them breeders. All right? That's what happened to the so-called black men here in America. And sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Right? So they would rape the women. They would get drunk and rape the women. That's what happened. All right? Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, Africans, and all the coast of Palestine? Palestinians are Arabs, right? So he said, what do you have to do with me, you Africans and Arabs? Why are you coming against my people? Will you render me a recompense, saying you want to pay me back for something, for me not choosing you? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly and pleasant things. Right? So he said, you robbed me. If you try to pay me back, I'm going to judge you because you robbed me. All right? And let's see what else. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem. Right? So that would be your southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, your so-called African Americans, Jamaicans, Haitians, all the blacks that are over here, right, in the West. And have ye sold unto the Grecians. So he said, look, the Africans and the Arabs sold the black people to the Europeans. Is that not what happened in history? This is Joel 3. This was written 2,500 years ago. But guess what? All this prophecy came to pass, though. And obviously God saw it happen before it happened. He said, I'm going to write it down so that the people know what had happened. That ye might remove them far from their border. You see that right there? And that was the end goal. That was the end goal, to remove them far from their border, right? Because the people who are in Africa, right, the Jews who fled into Africa were already pretty far from their border, right? But the Africans and the Arabs said, look, we got to get these Jews out of here, right? And the Europeans agreed, and they said, let's move them even further from their border. Brought them over here to the west. All right? It's all recorded in the scriptures. So remember the thought. This is why World War III going to happen. Because of what has happened in history to God's people. That's why he's bringing World War III to happen. That's why he's bringing them nukes on people. All right? Because of what has happened to his people. What has happened to the Israelites in history. All right, let's get more on the Valley of Jehoshaphat. All right, this is Revelation 16. This is Revelation 16. Again, I read this often. But for any new people that's watching, all right, or for anybody who just, needs to hear it again, I got it for you right here. All right, so this is Revelation 16, verse 14. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth into the kings of the earth and of the whole world, right? So their scientific achievements, they call miraculous. They call it a miracle of modern science, right? I've shown the video on there before of Ben Shapiro talking about how Israel's Iron Dome is really miraculous. Whether he realizes it or not, he's fulfilling this scripture. Letting you know he's a devil, all right? Saying, look, This is miraculous what we did here with the technology. The technology is just miraculous. All right. Which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world. Right. Every nation has technology now. Right. To gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. And it's all to the end to establish World War III and Judgment Day. That's what it's all building to. That's why Iran is in so much unrest right now. That's why the state of Israel is poking the bear, so to speak, with Iran. They said, look, let's get the show on the road. Let's get this prophecy on and popping, right? Because the state of Israel is so proud and so wicked, they think that they can make it through the day of judgment. They're going to get destroyed just like everybody else. All right? Go forth unto the kings of the earth, the whole world, about that great day of God Almighty. Verse 15, behold, I come as a thief. Christ coming like a thief in the night. Blessed is he that watcheth. That's why I bring these news stories every week. All right, reminding y'all of these scriptures. And keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame. So when it says keep his garments, this is what it's talking about right here. When it says keep his garments. In Psalms 132, it says keep his garments. All right, Psalms 132 and verse 9. It says, let thy priests be clothed with righteousness, and let thy saints shout for joy. All right, so clothed in righteousness. That's the garments that it's talking about. It's talking about your righteousness. All right, so what is righteousness? Psalms 119 and verse 172. The garments is righteousness, remember? So we have to go precept by precept to get the understanding of what it's talking about in Revelation. Psalm 119 verse 172. My tongue shall speak of thy word, for all thy commandments are righteousness. So in Revelation 16, when it says keep his garments, it means blessed is he that keep the commandments. That's what it's going into. It's going into keeping the commandments. Blessed is he that watcheth, watch the events as they unfold, and keep the commandments. All right, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. The same way that Aaron made the Israelites naked when he made them that golden calf. All right, he made them naked. All right, and the Lord saw their shame, and he gathered them together into a place. Right, so God gathered all these nations together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. Right, so Armageddon isn't an event. Armageddon isn't a asteroid coming down like you see in Hollywood. That's not Armageddon. Armageddon is a place. All right. Armageddon is another term, is a Greek term for the valley of Megiddo. That's what Armageddon means. The same as the valley of Jehoshaphat. And I've showed this before, but I want to show it again. You see right here where it says the plain of Megiddo, the valley of Jezreel. That's where everybody's going to be gathered. All right? The valley of Megiddo, the valley of decision, the valley of Jehoshaphat. It's all the same thing. All right? It's the northern part of the West Bank. That disputed territory between the state of Israel and Hezbollah and Hamas and all these Jordan, all these rival factions, the Palestinians, right? All these different rival factions. You have Iran funding one side, you have the U.S. funding another side. Iran allies itself with BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That's a whole coalition. The U.S. and the state of Israel and the EU and Canada, all that is a coalition. Right? You see the sides taking shape. You see the sides forming. This is a World War III where God is bringing all nations to fight right here. All right? Now, I just want to point this out. As you see that one right there. So let me bring out this other map. That's more of a modern map. Right? So this is the modern map post-2000 of the same region. You see how Carmel is up here? Excuse me. Let me pull both these. This one right here. There we go. Pull that one up over here on this side. You see the 2000 right here. Pull this one up over here on this side. So you see over here on this, let me zoom out on this just a little bit so you can see it better. So you see the valley of Megiddo, where it's at. You see the valley of Jezreel, where it's at. It's right here. All right, this disputed territory. That's where they're all going to be fighting. And over here, obviously, I have it circled all the way into Carmel. But over here I have it a little bit, but that's the same region. All right, that's where everybody's going to be gathered in that disputed territory between the Palestinians and the state of Israel. All right, so everybody's going to be gathered right there. That's where World War III is going to be taking place mostly. All right, there's going to be fighting all over, sure, but that's the main spot. All right, that's the main spot where he's going to gather everybody. All right, so don't save, don't save. So I've been talking about nukes, right? I have been talking about nukes. Is that in the Bible? When I talk about nuclear weapons? All right. I'm going to give you this in Isaiah 54, first of all. Firstly, I'm going to give you Isaiah 54, firstly. Isaiah 54. And because there's a couple things right here. There's a couple things right here that are very important in Isaiah 54. Starting with verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire. So God said, look, I created the blacksmith. The blacksmith is the one who made swords, made axes, maces, things like that. That's what they made. Bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, right? The blacksmith made weapons. That's what he did. So God said, look, I made the blacksmith who made all those weapons, and I've created the waster to destroy. So God said, look, I made the scientists too, who created nuclear bombs. Waster right here, it's called the waster because it wastes a whole city at once. All right? That's what it was called whenever an army came through and took over a city. It's called wasting the city in the scriptures. All right? When it says a waster here, it's talking about it can destroy a whole city at once. What can do that besides a nuke? All right? No one weapon can do that besides a nuclear weapon. All right? But look what he said right here about his chosen. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. But it's not going to affect the Israelites because God made the nuclear weapons. God can protect us from the nuclear weapons because he made them. All right? So I want to finish. Well, yeah, I'm going to go to Psalms 91 because Psalms 91 talks about the same thing, where it says, no weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. All right? And specifically after he's talking about the nukes. All right? So, Psalm 91, I'm going to start with verse 5. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. And when it's talking about the arrow, this ain't talking about it ain't talking about an archery arrow, all right? It's talking about a missile. It's talking about an ICBM. All right, check this out. Nor of the pestilence that walketh in darkness. Did not we just have a pestilence that shut down the whole world for a couple years? Yeah, they called it COVID-19. All right. Nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Remember what we read in Isaiah called the waster? David was in the spirit. He saw what was going on. He said, I just seen something that wasted everything, that destroyed everything. But he said God's people was not touched in it though. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. So what is going to happen where 1,000 people die over here and 10,000 people die over here? What can do that? All at once? How's that possible? With a nuclear weapon that wipes out a whole city. But God's chosen going to be walking through it like, dang, it didn't even touch me. I seen 1,000 people die over here. I seen 10,000 die over here, but I'm all right. That's what David is seeing in the spirit. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. So God said, yeah, make no mistake about it. You're going to see it with your eyes. This isn't a metaphor. He said, you're going to see it with your eyes. You're going to see the destruction. You're going to see what waste in the middle of the day. All right? Some people, and Christ said, some people are going to be at work. Some people are going to be at work while it happens. Some people are going to be at the mill, grinding. Some people are going to be asleep because obviously if it's all at one time, it's night in one part of the world, it's day in another part of the world. But the people that's walking around in the middle of the day, some of them might be at work, some of them might be on their lunch break, some of them might be at the house, but they're going to see this happening. All right? Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. All right? Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. So David is saying, look, because you trusted in the same Lord that I trusted in, you're going to be all right. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. You see that right there? So David said, look, the Lord going to protect you in that. The same thing that Isaiah said, that all the prophets saw the same thing, right? Because they're all on one accord, they're all in the Spirit. All right? Isaiah said, no weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord. So you got to be righteous in God's eyes for this to work for you. All right? And there's no escaping the judgment. All right? There's no escaping this judgment. You may say, well, if nukes are coming to America, I got to go somewhere else, right? You can't escape this judgment. In Revelation 6, again, the whole Bible talks about the same thing, the same event, Judgment Day. All right? This is Revelation 6. I'm going to start with verse 12. Now I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. We see great earthquakes all the time now. All right? We don't know if this has been fulfilled yet. I assume it has not personally. But this other part, it says, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood earlier this year. And I believe it was April. April the 7th, I want to say. I may have got the dates wrong. Maybe it was April the 8th. I can't remember. But we had the sun become black, right? There was an eclipse. For the past few years, we've had more and more, blood moons, lunar eclipses. All right? And the stars of heaven fell into the earth. That's what it said in 2 Ezra 15. Even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind, right? So, again, when it's talking about stars here, this if something's falling out of the sky, it looks like a shooting star, right? So, the stars of heaven is not talking about the actual stars, because if the actual stars came to the earth, they would destroy it. They would destroy everything, right? It's just one star. It wouldn't even be multiple stars. This is talking about satellites. Satellites fall, all right? And look this up on your own time. There's something up in space around the earth called space junk. All right? It's when satellites crash into each other. There's just a bunch of junk up there. There's just a bunch of metal junk floating around the earth that you can't see because it's far away. But satellites, you may think, well, if satellites are orbiting the earth, how are they not crashing into each other? They are all the time. All right? And they just leave them up there. Some people have made efforts to go get them, but they haven't cleaned up all the space junk. But yeah, look up space junk on your own time. It's just a bunch of metal debris up there floating around the earth. God said all that's coming down. He ain't going to leave that up there. He's bringing all that down. All right? Stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree cast her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. You see that right there? So, when the heaven departed as a scroll, it's not saying like that the sky, just went away. It's saying that when a mushroom cloud forms, it looks like a scroll being rolled up. That's what it's going into. It's going into a mushroom cloud. All right. Let me just look at something real quick. Let me see if I got a photo of a mushroom cloud. I think I do somewhere. Let's see. Not in my maps. But let's see if I got them in my photo. I think I do. See if I can find a mushroom cloud somewhere. I think I would have labeled it mushroom cloud as well. Got a bunch of useless photos in here. I ain't gonna lie. It's a bunch of stuff that I download for editing purposes. Let's see if I got a mushroom cloud. Yes. So let me bring this back down. This is the mushroom cloud. And this isn't even necessarily the best example of one departing as a scroll, but that's what a scroll looks like when it's rolled together. All right, and if it was a GIF, it would show you it rolling up. Right, that's how it works with a mushroom cloud. It rolls up. All right. So heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and every island were moved out of their places. You see that right there? So it doesn't matter where you go to. Every mountain, every island, is going to be shaken come judgment day. Everything is going to be shaken. All right. And the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich man and the chief captains and the mighty man and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. All right. So that's people going to their bomb shelters. All right. When it said in the dens, that's their bomb shelters. And in the rocks of the mountains, you know, the biggest bomb shelters, the biggest mass bomb shelters, right, where they bring in everybody that they can, are in mountains. All right. Those are the biggest bomb shelters, are in mountains. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Right? They're going to be terrified. Naturally. You should be. All right? If you ain't been following Christ, if you ain't been watching, if you ain't been praying, if you ain't been keeping your garments, you should be terrified. The day of the Lord is coming. That's why I do these streams to warn y'all. All right? For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Ain't nobody going to be able to run from judgment. All right? We see, or rather we saw in Wisdom of Solomon 5, that the righteous will be confirmed, will be established in that judgment day. The wicked going to be destroyed. All right? The wicked will be destroyed. Wickedness cannot prosper. It can never prosper. All right? So, let's go from there. I still want to stay in Isaiah 9, and this is what I'll close out with, Isaiah 9. All right? And this is why I do these classes, man, to warn y'all of the things that are coming. Every week. And most of these scriptures aren't new, if you've been watching these every week. Most of these scriptures aren't new scriptures that y'all have never heard before. I'll throw in a couple in there that you know, I ain't never read on here. But, or at least I ain't in a while. But you have to be solidified in your understanding on this, all right? You have to confirm your understanding on this, all right? And if similar things are happening and the same thing is escalating, like with the state of Iran, like we have to go into the same things, because again, all the prophets talk about the same things. It's all leading to World War III, all leading to Judgment Day. So this is Isaiah 9, starting with verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, right? So you take it back to ancient times, right? You had people running onto the battlefield with a sword, with an axe, with a bow and arrow, right? With a spear, javelin, whatever, right? They run onto the battlefield. They got the horses, click, clock, right? Run onto the battlefield. People were yelling, ah, right? And when people get stabbed or get shot with an arrow or whatever, it's they're screaming, right? But also their garments become rolled in blood, right? So all with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Even take it on up to, you know, modern weaponry, modern wars with World War I and II, World War, or rather Vietnam War, right? You have people with guns out, even the Iraq War, right? You had people with guns, right? You still have people with guns who shoot, obviously, with a gun, makes a lot of noise, right? A lot of noise. And people get shot, their garments get rolled in blood, right? So, confused noise, garments rolled in blood. Every war has been like that. Every war, and up until right now, has been with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this, meaning this world war, this third world war, shall be with burning and fuel of fire. It's going to be a nuclear war, all right? Something that the world has never seen before. A nuclear war, all right? Christ said he's going to baptize the world with fire, all right? Peter said, seeing that the heavens and the earth shall melt with fervent heat, or that the elements shall melt with fervent heat, what type of people are we going to be? I'm paraphrasing at this point, but you get my point. All the prophets, all the apostles spoke of this war that is coming. All right, the times that we're living in now, all of them talked about it. All right, burning and fuel of fire, and look what follows this. Look what follows this third world war. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. All right, so the thing that follows the third world war is the government of Christ. That's what follows the Third World War. All right? And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Who else? Who else is going to be called the Mighty God but Jesus Christ? Of the increase of his government? Notice it says the increase of his government. I mean, it's just going to build and build and build. As Daniel said, the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. All right? The people of the world, even after the nukes, they're not going to just want to give rulership and leadership away. It's going to have to be taken by Christ and his army. The increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. You see it right there? Eventually, it will end with everlasting peace. But we got to go through that World War III to get there. All right? We got to go through that nuclear war that takes out the wicked to get there. All right? Upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. That kingdom will last forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this, right? And God's ready to make it happen. Again, that's why you see all these tensions around the state of Iran. Iran don't want to start World War III. But God said, nah, y'all got to have some unrest. Y'all got to have something going on over there. Okay, Soleimani wasn't enough. All right, what about your general commander in Syria? Oh, that wasn't enough? What about your president dying? That ain't enough? Right? So God is making all these things happen in Iran. So that this prophecy can't get rolling. All right? That prophecy in 2 Ezra 15 to be exact. That's what I always reference concerning Iran. And I don't think we've seen the fulfillment of that prophecy yet. Where, they go and waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians.